One of the worst instances of Red Terror in India was the Maoist attack in Dantewada in April 2010. 76 CRPF personnel were massacred in that terror attack when they were ambushed by Maoists in the forests of Tarmetla in Chhattisgarh. More than a decade after that attack, Union Minister for Women and Child Development Smriti Irani has written a novel about a police officer investigating the terror attack. This is her debut novel, and there are portions that are likely to raise hackles in some circles. For example, the novel has a character on a wheelchair who is a Delhi University professor, and in the novel, a recruiter for Maoists. There is also this PhD scholar from Delhi University whose computer has chilling details, videos and letters about a Red Terror plot, including a plot to kill a high-value target in Delhi. Some would argue the novel is just inspired by Dantewada, but others could argue it's not just inspired by the Dantewada massacre of 2010, but also subsequent activities of Maoists in our country.
मुझे लगता है कि एक उपन्यास की सबसे बड़ी उपलब्धि ये है अगर वो उपन्यास काल्पनिक दृष्टिकोण से आपको समाज का कोई सच उस पर चिंतन करने के लिए मजबूर करे। तो मेरे लिए तो ये उपन्यास की उपलब्धि है कि जो हकीकत नहीं है उसको भी आप तलाश रहे हैं। मैं चाहूँगी कि जिनको रुचि है वो कम से कम पन्ने पलट कर देखे कि नाम आखिर लाल सलाम क्यों है।
इसका पहला पन्ना लाल सलाम बहुत सारे सवाल लेकर शुरू होता है। मुझे उम्मीद है कि आखिरी पन्ने तक जाते जाते जवाब मिल जाते होंगे।
जवाब ऐसा मिलेगा आपको कि कहीं ना कहीं इस बात का संतोष भी होगा कि लाल सलाम एक किताब आपने पढ़ी, और इस बात का कहीं ना कहीं आपको इल्म भी हो जाएगा कि इसका शीर्षक लाल सलाम क्यों है।
And Union Minister for Women and Child Development and now author Smriti Irani joins me on India First. Minister, welcome on the show and many congratulations. What made you write a novel around the Dantewada massacre of 2010?
Firstly, I think we need to correct ourselves. It was inspired from a television debate where there was an atrocious statement made by one of the panelists, which built up a rage that sustained for a decade. And how do you put rage to productive use? You want to tell stories about men who serve with honor, men who serve in surroundings which are challenging, men who serve fearlessly and fiercely. And how do you dedicate that rage so that it spills onto paper, telling a story which not many may celebrate, but a story that needs to be told, a fiction. And I'm grateful that those who have read it now say that it was essential, even in a fictional context, to talk about the Red Terror as though this is not a romanticized part of our democracy. In fact, a very gruesome reality which needs to be embraced for the truth that it bears, for the truth that it impacts the lives of many.
Have you been to the region, Minister, interacted with the CRPF on ground, seen the condition they live and operate in?
Again, Gaurav, I would, like I said here, correct you by saying that this is a fictional story. I have, in my 22 years as a social and political activist, had the privilege of seeing the expanse of our country. I have worked extensively in areas like Gadchiroli, Talasari, personally done a lot of NGO work also in Talasari belt, which is in Maharashtra, as not only a minister, but also my days in the organization have worked extensively in Chhattisgarh, in Jharkhand, in Telangana. So one has seen firsthand the fact that the system per se does its utmost to keep the tenets of democracy alive, to keep a constitution thriving, and does so in challenging circumstances because their stories never get told. Their sacrifices are forgotten in a jiffy. And that is why I said that when I was a part of a television debate a decade ago, somebody was very offhandish about the CRPF and said that, हाँ, आपने वर्दी पहनी है, what did you expect? they will die in the line of duty. And my rage stemmed from the fact that what if somebody who loves them, a family member, was watching that debate? We would seem so ungrateful and so matter of fact about the lives of these precious men and women in uniform. So
absolutely.
for me, yes, I have seen from close quarters, and it is a privilege to watch these people who serve in our country, in our paramilitary forces, in our police forces, in our armed forces. I've seen them serve with honor. Many of them come from families with meager means. Many of them come from middle class families such as ours, but they serve with such pride. And it is a fictional story. There have been cases that if a reader goes through the story, you will recognize that there have been some instances that you may have read of in some newspaper article or so. And that is the resonance that the book has already had with people who have written about that area, who have reported from the area,
Okay.
or who have served in the area.
Where did you find time to write, Minister? You were HRD Minister, Textile Minister, Women and Child Development Minister. Where did you find time to write about Red Terror and the plot around it?
I have gotten written before in my media avatar for television, for theatre, and for short films. So writing for me is not new. That is an aspect of my career which was not very well known. I have produced a lot of series for television and for theatre. The fact that I wanted to write a novel, actually I was writing a non-fiction book, which was based on a lot of research. And that book is in the making for the past 3 years. And I had exasperated my editor because I was running short on time. And one of my last meetings, I said, well, there is a story that I want to tell, but it's a fictional story. And she said, what is it? I said, you may not like it because she's from a different ideology altogether. In fact, she believes a lot in the left ideology. It was a difficult hearing for her because I went end to end with the story. And I said, this is the story I'd like to write. And I would like to name the book Lal Salam. So she was kind enough to see my manuscript and say, yes, I would like to print it.
What made you choose the novel route to tell the story of the Dantewada massacre and Red Terror, ma'am?
I think that there has been a romanticization of Naxalism in many quarters, especially in the literary quarters. And there has been no opportunity to talk about, like I said, the gruesome truths. There is a price that has been paid not only by paramilitary forces, but people who believe in the system, who have walked within the maryada of the law. And a fictional character trying to speak of those challenges is something that I wanted. Like I said, it's taken a decade of rage to spill out of a pen. And I wanted to write about those characters that I've had the privilege of meeting, from the sub-inspector to somebody who serves tea at a CRPF post, to somebody who has worked in the social sector in those areas. So there were nuances and short experiences that I picked along the way. There's also a journalist who serves from that particular area. There is a lot of balance that is struck by individuals who live that reality. And I was hoping to tell a story which says a lot about the other side, how much of sacrifice it takes to keep the faith of the people alive in the Constitution, in the tenets of democracy, like I said. For me, it is a story that was waiting to be told for 10 years. It stemmed just like this one evening on a television debate. And I'm grateful that now it has been published, and today is the day that it got released.
Minister, you know, so the tea seller finds a mention in your book, and I don't want to talk more about the tea seller because plays an important role. That lady, that woman journalist has a very key role in your book. But has Red Terror remained relatively under the radar? You know, through Lal Salam, is your effort to put the spotlight not just on armed Maoists, but an entire ecosystem?
I think, Gaurav, it would be, I would take umbrage to the fact that you would presume that it's limited to operational activities in a fictional setup. It is, I think, the larger environment, which you call the ecosystem, that it's a reflection of. Like I said before, that stories and songs and literature has romanticized the very notion of Naxalism. And those who die for the country are remembered on the day that they are given a medal for their valiant service. And I think that in popular literature, not much has been written about the other side. I remember the NSA Ajit Dovalji once saying that there is a civil route that this kind of conversations will take one day, where in popular culture you will see a reflection, and nobody will talk about the brutality with which Naxalism attacks the very roots of our society. My effort was to predominantly tell a story, which is a fictional story, but I recognize the resonance it has with the cultural connotations that you speak about.
Is Lal Salam just the story of a fictional character, this really dashing superintendent of police Vikram Singh, or ma'am, is this the story of security forces fighting not just Red Terror, but perhaps a larger enemy within?
I will only say this, that it has been for me an honor. Just before this interview, I had a phone call from a lady who's had her near ones serve in the CRPF. And I could hear her cry on the phone because it was difficult for her to turn the pages. I asked her, how much of it have you read? She says, I've gone through half of it, but it is difficult for me to turn the page, because she says every day I would open up the newspaper, hoping against hope that I don't see his name in the headlines. She says that I hated myself for hoping that, because I knew that there is that hope that whoever dies should not be my husband, should not be somebody known to me. She says, I recognize that I sound so selfish. And when she says that, I had a sense of relief when he would come back home or when he would get back to his barracks. And for me as a writer, the fact that a lady called me just 15 minutes before this interview and reflected on her life, I think speaks volumes. We hear about the valor, we hear about the sacrifice. We will remember them on the 15th of August or the 26th of January. But imagine the challenge they live every day. She told me, she says, I can't even tell you, we are not supposed to be scared. Yeah. After all, the man of my house wears a uniform. But I know that when he goes in, especially for patrolling, I hope that I don't hear the bad news. So this is a lady who shared her guilt about the fact that it shouldn't just be his name. I just don't want to see his name in the headlines that he has died. And she called to say, I just want to say that I'm sorry that I felt this, and I've not gone through the whole book. I've just gone through half of it. And for me, I think the fact that a fictional story could help her reach that catharsis, that this is her life, for me is a great tribute. That my effort was just to be able to tell a story which is, again, like I said, fictional, but obviously it's real for so many people.
It indeed is, and in more ways than one. The brave CRPF personnel and their families could relate to it. But, one of the characters in your book is a university professor on a wheelchair. And then there is also this PhD scholar in the Red Terror belt consorting with armed Maoists. Ma'am, is this fiction, or is this book actually inspired by facts on ground?
I will just say that I will repeat again, this is a fictional book. There is a presumption, Gaurav, in your question that if you're a Maoist and if you're a Naxal, then you would not be academically endowed. I think that fallacy needs to be put to rest. There is a presumption that whoever picks up a gun against the country or wants to call for the breaking of the nation will not be educated enough, because nobody who's academically sound can possibly speak against one's own nation. That fallacy needs to be put to rest. And you have, through your own program, and so has popular media and news channels, covered enough individuals who have been academically celebrated, but who believe that the true measure of a democracy is if they can challenge to break it up. Minister. So while I would again repeat that this is a fictional story, you should put to rest this false assumption that a Maoist or a Naxal cannot have a PhD or has not studied in some pristine academic institutions. That is not true. You know it. You've reported for years on it.
Minister, but your motive behind Lal Salam, is this part fact, part fiction? Part fact, incidentally, that's under investigation by the police even as we speak, ma'am.
I have, again, I would refute any allegation that there is an under investigation case which finds a reflection here. That would be not correct. I will again repeat that this is a fictional story. I will again repeat that you find, Gaurav, these instances or characters in the book that you'd like to relate to because you've served in terms of a reporter for over 2 decades in such areas. But I'm sure that you will recognize that there seems to be a cycle in the kind of personnel who are involved in Naxal attacks. And it seems that one mirrors the other in terms of their connotations, in terms of their own backgrounds, in terms of the pure indoctrination that happens. And since it's cyclic, you will see that the present resonates a lot with the past. So that is your own experience speaking. And for me as a writer, what is a matter of, I wouldn't say pride, but satisfaction, is that a senior reporter like you, who will not get swayed by a fiction, actually tries to look for fact in it.
You know, because for example, and I want to come to this Delhi University professor on a wheelchair, being a Red Terror recruiter of Financer and a PhD scholar recruited by him in the Red Terror belt, reportedly aiding armed Maoists. Now, does any of this information or experience come from your stint as the Union HRD Minister of India, ma'am?
10 years ago, when I had conceptualized the story, I was not the HRD minister. I was working on ground. If you look at my public images, you will find interviews from Chhattisgarh. You will find my work from Jharkhand. In fact, my colleague, who's now the National Secretary of the Bharatiya Janata Party, Asha Lakra, she's from Dumka in Jharkhand. She's now currently serving as the mayor of Ranchi.
Yes.
I met her when she was 26 years old. And she decided to join the Bharatiya Janata Party. And on her first wedding anniversary in an open market, her husband was shot down and Asha was called and told, ki body leke jao. She was punished for being a political activist. 10 years ago, I brought Asha home, 27-year-old widowed. The price she had to pay for being a political activist was a dead husband. So these are people that I have seen. This was this young girl from Dumka, and I had seen her sacrifice. I had seen the challenges that she had to undergo. For a young child born in Dumka to then come to a major city and then rise through the ranks of the Bharatiya Janata Party, these are people in flesh and blood that I've known. I've had the privilege and honor of serving with them as colleagues. So, like I said, I've had a 20-year experience in politics in this country. Now, many might not recognize it or know of it, but these are living, breathing people that I have met. So a lot of my story was conceptualized, like I said, a decade ago.
Okay.
You know of recruiters who are academically inclined or who stem from these organizations. This is not a hidden fact. Maybe it's not a part of popular literature, but now it is.
Minister, I don't want to give the plot away at this stage, but in chapter 9, there is a
Please
reference.
don't give it away at any stage.
No, absolutely. There is a reference to
It's a crime thriller. If you give it away,
I will not. I promise you that. But
be a great injustice.
no, I will not. But there is this reference of Maoists writing a secret letter about striking the highest value target. Is that inspired by actual events on ground? And are you implying, ma'am, that
You know
Red Terror is trying...
You know that high-valued... You know, Gaurav, from your years of reporting, that high-value targets have been on the list of Maoists. It should not shock you.
Yes, but the
We've
fact
known
that,
it.
yes,
We've known it as political social activists. I just told you the story of a 26, 27-year-old girl.
yes,
On her first wedding anniversary, husband point blank shot dead in the middle of a market and told, go pick up your husband's dead body.
but the highest office in our country, the highest
Like I
office.
said, you've known of, I would not like to infer to my political office currently, but you know of the threat given to such offices openly, publicly.
Universities, certain NGOs, certain human rights activists, are they all a part of an elaborate ecosystem that operates under the radar, like you've
I
mentioned
would
in the
not
book?
want to paint everybody in with the same brush. Like I said, for you, I understand why the book has come alive, though it's a fiction, because you've seen such operations, you've reported on them, you've seen such institutions and individuals. And like I said, for somebody who's a first-time novelist to have a reporter of your caliber and your experience find so much of fact in a fiction, I think is a compliment to my editor as well. But like I said, that the complexity of the plot is such that you will find a reflection of how you have seen that world come alive. So for me, I will not paint everybody with the same brush, but I would appeal to people who are possibly listening and watching this interview. What is it about the book that has riled up Gaurav Sawant so much that Gaurav Sawant finds so real about a fiction?
Will there be a sequel, Minister?
This is a story that took 10 years. I hope, Gaurav, there is never a sequel to this book. And I'll tell you why. Because this book stemmed from the sacrifice of 76 men. And I hope no other man in uniform has to lose their lives.
That is true, ma'am. That is true. But that ecosystem, that powerful ecosystem, if that has to be taken down legally, well, will that be your sequel? But for joining me here,
Thank you for giving me a story idea.
for joining me
Maybe
here,
I'll consider it.
for joining me here on India First, many thanks.
Thank you.
Well, that is all we have time for on India First this evening. Many thanks for watching. Coming up next, Business Today with Udyan Mukherjee.